Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Laura, and this is your flash briefing for the week of April 7th. City Council meet for regular session Tuesday night, 6 in Council Chambers and City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watched live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Help keep medications out of waterways by participating in National Drug Take-Back Day on April 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This event is a safe and convenient way to dispose of unwanted over-the-counter and prescription drugs. Drop-off locations include the Lee Summit Police Department, the Lee Summit Medical Center, and the Places Restaurant at John Knox Village. Your feedback is needed on the city's capital improvement plan, which outlines anticipated city infrastructure improvements for fiscal years 2026 through 2030. The online comment period runs through April 21st on the city's website. Comments can also be submitted in person at the April 24th Planning Commission meeting. And celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Lee Summit Fire Department at a fun-filled open house on April 19th from 9 a.m. to noon at Fire Station Number 3, located at 2023 Northwest Shamrock Avenue. Bring the whole family to tour the fire station and walk through an inflatable house to learn about fire safety. Don't miss this opportunity to honor the legacy and join the celebration. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
I'm Assistant Chief Jim Eden.
And I'm Battalion Chief Ben Hicks.
And today we're at Lee Summit Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 was part of the 2016 no tax increase general obligation bond for public safety initiatives. The station was built and occupied in August of 2020. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've not been able to give tours or have an actual ribbon cutting. So we want to invite you in today to give you the opportunity to see what goes on within a Lee Summit Fire Department station.
Let's go take a tour.
This is our admin side of the facility. We use this side mainly for offices. We have a lot of work during the day, whether it's training or doing reports or just generally taking care of the shift that we need to do. At this particular station, Station 3, we do have an assistant chief that works out of here. That person has their own office where they need to manage what's going on throughout the day with the shift and staffing, and as well as running calls out of here. The captain has their own office as well. What the captain does is at this specific station is in charge of both the fire truck that's here as well as the ambulance. And so with all those personnel responsibilities as well as running calls and reports, that's where they work out of. And generally for the rest of the crew, which is somewhere around 5 to 6 individuals, we have rooms to write reports, and we have additional training rooms and other rooms where people can work. Walking into our living area, I think it's important to recognize that we work 48-hour shifts. So in the evenings, after 5 o'clock, after work is done, we may have the opportunity to catch a game or something else as long as we're not running calls. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. When we go into our kitchen, I think this gives you a great reason to know why we go to the grocery store. When you see fire trucks at the grocery store, what we're doing. Also for 2 days working for 48 hours, we buy all our meals at the grocery store, and then we come in here and cook. Just like you guys do at home. So everybody has their own fridge on each shift as well as their own pantry, and then we cook those meals here. Going into the sleeping side of things, we've got a couple different things that are significant. We have our own laundry room, which again is important when we're here for 48 hours. The opportunity to wash and clean our clothes and bedding is very important for hygiene. And walking into where our beds are, we keep the kind of sleeping quarters over on one side of the building. It gives us both easy access out to where our fire apparatus are, as well as kind of keeping it a little bit quieter for those people that have been up all night running calls. We have 11 bedrooms here at this station, and the reason we built it with so many bedrooms is we want to give ourselves as a city the opportunity to expand. So if we need to put another apparatus here or numerous other people working at this station, that's already in place as far as infrastructure goes, and we don't need to go back and try to make it bigger or better, and that's really important for us, especially because the old station was so small. Back out on the apparatus floor, we have doors facilitated as many places as possible, so that way when we're sleeping at night and a call comes out, we can make our way out fairly quickly to get out onto the truck if we need to and run a call. On the other side of the station, we kind of have other stuff that we may want to keep separated if we want to. Physical fitness is very important to us as firefighters. So in order to better ourselves and make sure we're as healthy as we can to do this job, we have our own gym facility here that we kind of go throughout the day when we can and get an opportunity to come in and work out. Our goal when we run calls, when we get back to the station after calls, our goal is to get ready to go back as soon as we can to run another call. So we have the opportunity or capability here to fill up our air tanks. You see firefighters wear the big air tanks on their backs and they use those in a fire. We can come back and fill those up and make sure that we're ready to go again when we're wanting to go run another call. We have our own workshop here. We work on a lot of our tools and making sure that everything's clean and operational, and this gives us the capability to do that, again, to make sure that we have everything we need and we're as capable as we can be running calls throughout the city. Cancer prevention is very important in the fire service right now. Because of that, we have an extractor machine, and what this does is gives us the capability when we come back from a fire, we can put our bunker gear into this machine and get all that really nasty crud off of our gear. Again, kind of getting back into that cancer prevention mode, allowing us to be as clean as we possibly can for the next call. And finally is our bunker gear room. We each have our own individual locker. This gives us the opportunity to store our gear when we're not here working in between shifts, as well as keep a clean extra set on here in case we do run a fire and we need to clean our current gear. Typically, this is where your day starts off at the fire station. You come in and get your gear and put it on wherever you're working that day, and then you end the same way, bringing your stuff back to your locker to go home after working. This is Med 3. This ambulance just currently moved into the station from Station 7. Station 3, since we've had it built, has turned into one of our busiest stations in the city. Therefore, we wanted to provide the best care and the closest unit as we could. So we moved one of our ambulances up, and this became Med 3 for this particular instance. Out of this station, we also have Pumper 3. And that's a fire apparatus that they utilize to run the calls on this west end of the city. The last vehicle that you see is the chief's vehicle. We have 2 shift chiefs on shift every day, and they split the city. And this chief running out of this station typically covers the west and south area of the city, while our chief of Station 2 covers kind of that northeast section of our city, and they divide it up evenly.
Thank you for going on a tour with us today. If you have any other questions about the Lee Summit Fire Department, please go to our webpage at lsfire.net or follow us on Facebook at Lee Summit Fire Department.
Thanks for joining us on the tour.
Councilmember Hodges.
Thank you. I love where you guys are coming from. You're local and you're all kind of coming together. But where I'm struggling with from the last time that we talked about this, I think it was maybe October.
I actually grew up in my district. We moved here my sophomore year in high school. My parents still live in the same house, and I just went through high school here and then have stayed in Lee Summit ever since. The neighborhood that my parents live in is Canterbury. My favorite thing, and I still do to this day, is I love to go running. They have the best sidewalks. I feel like you can go for days. So now I still get to do that. Since I live not too far from them, I get to use those same routes that I took during high school, and it's just fun.
All right, let's see it, Jess. Come on.
We're a big soccer family. I love sports, I love to watch sports, and it's even more fun to watch sports when my kids are in it. I coach my middle daughter Josie's team. I have since kindergarten. We do the basketball, we do softball, we're gonna do volleyball, and it's just so much fun. Something that I would like to accomplish while on city council is to get more family activities here. You know, I don't want to have to be driving my family to, say, the Kansas side or any other city but my own. And I want to be able to invest in our city and make family memories in our city.
Open the public hearing in the matter of K1 Speed, Diventures,
Crack Shack, Blue Jeans Golf.
Councilmember Hodges.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this to Lee Summit, because I grew up at this. My grandpa took us there, so I'm excited that now I can take my kids there.
Bill number 23-0, pre-construction services for the downtown Market Plaza project.
I'm just as excited as everybody else about the downtown marketplace. I'm extremely excited about the community that it's going to bring, bringing more family things to do to the city and right in the heart of it.
When you presented the numbers, the first time you came to us, it was 25.5%, and then a lot of...
You know, people were like, oh, you know, being on council, it's not a lot of work, not a lot of... I think it was a bit of a surprise when there's so much info that you realize you just don't know. Even something as simple as sidewalks. It's like you don't realize how much goes into something like that. After a couple months, I'm like, okay, I'm finally, you know, catching the groove of how things work, learning new things, but also feel like I've got some things under my belt as well. It's been a great experience so far.
I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, April 9th, 2025 Community and Economic Development Committee meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chair Lovell.
Here.
Vice Chair Hodges.
Here.
Councilmember Pryor. Councilmember Rader.
Present.
Planning Commissioner Trafton.
Present.
Okay, look for the approval of agenda. I would look for a motion there.
Chair,
Yes.
I move for the approval of the agenda.
Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Rader.
Aye.
Chair Lovell.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hodges.
Aye.
Any public comments?
There were no public comments.
Okay, we'll go right into business here. Item A, 2025-6780, approval of the February 12th, 2025 Community and Economic Development Committee action letter. Can I get a motion?
Chair, I move for the approval of the February 12th, 2025 Community and Economic Development Committee action letter.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Hodges?
Aye.
Councilmember Rader?
Aye.
Chair Lovell?
Aye. All right, that brings us to item B, public hearing, Community Development Block Grant 2025 through 29, Consolidated Plan, and 2025 through 2026 Annual Action Plan. Amy and Amy.
It's the A team tonight. Good evening, Amy Nassif, Interim Director of Development. Really pleased to be here tonight with a couple of great team members that's been helping us out. Tonight is our presentation of our consolidated plan and the annual action plan. If you remember from when we were here last month or so, we had a portion of that consolidated plan presented to you, which is basically the equivalent of like a 5-year strategic plan, which is all required through HUD and part of our CDBG funding and program that we have. And then also our annual action plan showing the progress and things that we've accomplished. So tonight what we're going to do is we'll share these plans with you all and then also open up and have our public hearings with our 4 recipient applicants who have requested funding for this upcoming year. And so they'll talk a little bit about their programs as well. We have Jessica Fish here, who's been with Mosaic, and she's done a phenomenal job putting together our consolidated plan and our annual action plan for us. And then also Amy Kahneman, who's a consultant with us now and helping us out and has been phenomenal, helping with our applicants and getting everything in order for us too, and keeping us on track with all of our deadline dates and reporting needs that we have. So I think to start off, we'll start with our presentation from Ms. Fish on our consolidated plan and the action plan for you all. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon. Thank you all for having me. Our team at Mosaic has been working with the city on these plans for more than a year, and we're excited to be at the point of presenting the draft consolidated plan and annual action plan to you all tonight. The consolidated plan is the broader 5-year plan that identifies and prioritizes housing and community development needs and develops a strategy to target federal grant funding to areas of need identified. The annual action plan shows the projects the city plans to invest in over the coming year, and the plans serve as the funding application for the Community Development Block Grant Program. The funding objectives of the Community Development Block Grant Program are to develop communities through providing decent housing, a suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunity with the goal of resulting in benefit to people with low or moderate incomes, preventing or eliminating slum or blight, or meeting an urgent need. The city received $342,628 in community development block grant funding in 2024. So the funding amounts here are based on estimates based on that previous funding amount. Our team conducted a wide range of community engagement for the consolidated plan. All of the information about the plans has been available on the project website, which serves as kind of a hub for the consolidated plan and analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, which is lsconplan.com. We held a housing and community needs survey based on the website that received 243 responses, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We held 2 community workshops in the fall, one in-person and one virtual workshop. We conducted interviews with stakeholders working in areas relevant to the consolidated plan and analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, such as housing and public services. And we partnered with Lee's Summit Cares and Habitat for Humanity to hold focus groups with their clients, the residents of Lee's Summit. Representatives from at least 17 organizations and agencies participated in the development of the Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan, including those listed here. Uh, 243 people responded to the community survey for the Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan. Of those, 95% were residents of Lee Summit, representing a range of zip codes and participation across age groups. Respondents were primarily homeowners, reflecting the high rate of home ownership in Lee Summit, and were about evenly split between households with incomes over $100,000 and below $100,000, similar to income levels in the city. A little bit about our project timeline. Our community engagement and data gathering took place from January to May of 2024. Development of the draft plans was April of 2024 through February of this year. And residents are invited to read and comment on the draft plans at the project website, lsconplan.com, in April to May of this year. So that'll be April 10th to May 9th, 2025. The plans will be finalized and approved through the City Council and HUD in May of this year. The 5-year goals identified during the community engagement and data gathering process include improving housing access and quality, providing housing and services for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness, improving public facilities and infrastructure, providing public services, and planning and administration for the Community Development Block Grant Program. Over the next 5 years, the city expects outcomes to include rehabilitation of 75 homeowner housing units, assisting 320 people with homelessness services, and assisting 13,150 people with public services. Projects for the 2025 year will include the Cold Water Back Snack Program, Hope House Court Advocacy Program, Lee Summit Social Services Operating Expenses, Lee Summit Hillcrest Transitional Housing Case Manager, Habitat for Humanity Home Preservation Exterior Repairs, acquisition and rehabilitation of housing for homeownership by Habitat for Humanity, and administration of the Community Development Block Grant Program. So in addition to your involvement today, you can read and comment on the draft plans from April 10th tomorrow to May 9th at lsconplan.com on the project website. You'll be able to download and read those there and submit comments through a form starting tomorrow. Residents and stakeholders can also mail or deliver written comments to the Development Services Department at 220 Southeast Green Street, Lee's Summit, Missouri, 64063, or email comments directly to us at info@mosaiccommunityplanning.com. And now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Amy to get us started with the public hearing and hear some more about the projects.
Hi, I'm Amy Kahneman. I'm a funding specialist for JEO Consulting Group. Prior to JEO, I worked for the City of Lee Summit for 8 years and assisted with the CDBG program for about 6. I've been contracted with the city for the past few months just to help manage the CDBG program while vacant positions are being filled. So tonight I'm here to facilitate the public hearing, provide some background on the application process, and present a funding recommendation for the upcoming action plan. With the 5-year consolidated plan and the first-year annual action plan just presented by Mosaic, now comes time to discuss the funding recommendation associated with that first-year annual action plan, which begins July 1st. The process used to develop the recommendation followed several steps. The funding application period ran from January 1st to February 3rd, followed by staff review in February. In March, staff evaluated and prioritized the requests, and today, on April 9th, the CEDC is holding a public hearing. And then the public will have a chance to review and comment on the plans from April 10th to May 9th. Then we are scheduled to take the plans to City Council for consideration on May 13th, assuming we hear about our allocation from HUD by then. and then we'll submit the plans to HUD for approval shortly thereafter. Funding requests were first evaluated based on several key criteria. Amy Nassif and I assessed the completeness of each application, the eligibility of the agency, program, and beneficiaries, and whether the requests aligned with the priority needs outlined in the consolidated plan. Additionally, we evaluated each agency's capacity to fully carry out the proposed activity in compliance with federal regulations and city standards. Requests were then prioritized considering several factors, including available funding and constraints, such as caps on administrative costs, which is 20%, and public services, which is 15%, and I'll get more into those caps later in the presentation. Additionally, at least 70% of the funds must benefit low to moderate income persons. We also considered whether the requests support existing services that the city's CDBG program has funded, or if it were a new service, and then also the urgency of the need. Lastly, we evaluated the agency's past history of performance and compliance risks. Next, applicants will have the opportunity to present their programs, projects, and funding requests. Following that, I'll present the funding recommendation from city staff. The CEDC will then have the opportunity to discuss the available funding options, and ultimately the CEDC will approve a recommendation to be forwarded to the City Council for consideration. Next, I'll present the CDBG Program Administration funding request on behalf of the city. The request is for $68,525.60, which falls under the Planning and Administration category and is subject to the 20% cap of the total grant allocation. Next fiscal year, it'll cost the city approximately $138,000 to run the program, including one full-time grant specialist, as well as a portion of the Assistant Director of Grants and Administration salary. Both positions are within the Development Services Department. This request recoups about half of the total cost to the city, and I am requesting the full 20% cap to help cover these administrative costs. I can go ahead and take questions, or I can continue to move on. Now the other applicants will come up and give a brief description of their programs and projects, and please feel free to ask questions after each presentation. Monica?
Good afternoon. I'm Monica Humbard. I'm from Executive Director of Coldwater, and thank you for the opportunity to come and present this to you. We appreciate all the support we've gotten from the city in the past for this program, and just want to share a little bit of how this program has changed in the last year. Do we have slides?
Yes, hit enter.
Sure. Okay, perfect. Okay, so in the last year, we have changed, last school year I should say, we have done a little change with this program. We had been working with harvesters for the last several years on this program, but they were in the process of phasing this program out. What was we had been watching happen over the last few years was that the number of students in our schools, they were decreasing the number that they would provide the food packs for through the harvesters program, because they were the ones that got to determine how many went to each school. So we were concerned about some of the needier schools that were really needing these food packs and were not getting the adequate amount for them. We also, going into the school year, knew that the new preschool was opening, so we were concerned about the students there that were going to need these as well, and knew pretty much that they were not going to add another school when they were already taking the number down at the schools that were already getting service through the Harvesters Back SNAP program. So we determined that we were going to take this on our own and do all of them ourselves, knowing that that was going to be considerably more for Coldwater to take this on, but it was felt that it was very important to the school district and the children that we were serving that they get these food packs. So going forward, we will be doing this program on our own. We were able to do some changes with the food packs and make them change some of the items so that they didn't cost as much to produce, and added more people and everything to make this possible. So we are now up to 325 kids, which is more than we have ever done. We're serving 12 of the 18 Lee Summit elementaries, one of the 4 middle schools, and Legacy Park and Paradise Park Great Beginnings, Early Head Start, as well as the new district preschool. And we have capped several of the schools going into this school year, knowing that the expense was going to be going up. We capped the number at some of the schools, even though they wanted more. We told them that we would do a certain number and that we would try the next year to increase that based on what our funding was. So that was kind of our plan going into the program. Our request was for $10,000 to cover a portion of these kids, which is about a fourth of the kids in the school district that are actually in need of these food packs. So the way that Harvesters figures out how a community, how much need there is in that community, is they say that a certain percentage of the kids that are receiving first free and reduced lunches are actually the ones that are considered chronically hungry and in need of food packs. So how you break that down in Lee Summit, there's about 4,300 kids that qualify for free and reduced lunch. 24% of those students, which is over 24% of the students in the district. And then we, from that, we can determine that about 1,300, which is 30% of those, are chronically hungry. So we are currently serving and hope to serve in this coming school year 350 of those kids. So that will be over a fourth of the kids that are in need of them. These food packs are very valuable to not only the students, but for the teachers and people that are working with these children in the school district, because the food packs do a lot to affect their grades, their attendance, their health, their self-esteem, their school behavior, social skills, sense of responsibility, and just their participation in the classroom. So it's very important that these kids are not hungry while they're trying to learn, which can affect not only that particular school year, but their success in the school district for the rest of their lives and into the future. So we feel that this program is very important to our school, our city, and so we hope that you'll help us support that in the future. Anybody have any questions? Hi. Sure.
So these are just for the weekend. So
Just
how
for
do
the
they
weekend.
access the backpack? The
Okay,
backpacks?
so we have people that pull together all the food at Coldwater. We get it all there. Then we have volunteers that come in, typically on a Thursday, depending on the school schedule. Typically on a Thursday, they come in, pack them all up. Then we have another group of delivery people that take them directly to the schools, and then they are distributed by the counselors through to the students that are in those schools.
On Monday?
On Friday.
On
So they have them
Fridays.
for the weekend.
Okay, so
yeah.
they have them before the weekend?
Yes.
And how much do they get usually, portion size?
So we try to design them so that the kids can use them themselves if they had to. So there'll be like small cans of meals that they can just pop the pop can if they had to and eat them cold if they needed to. The mac and cheese that are in the little containers, you can put it in the microwave and make themselves. There'll be breakfast bars for just snacks. I'm trying to think what else is there. I don't think they're doing Pop-Tarts anymore. Oh, fruit cups. So we try to make them as healthy as we can. When we were redesigning the bags, we really focused in on making sure they were things that were healthier and that the content was going to be really strong, because we knew we were going to have to take the number of items down to get the cost to the point where we could increase the number. So, sure. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Well, so as I was listening, so you're asking for 10,000. I guess maybe explain to me, what makes you not ask for more?
Because I know how this works here.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe my question is for, like, how do we determine who gets more and who gets less? Like, how is that?
I'm actually going to present our funding recommendation from staff, and I'll explain the different categories that the applications fall in. And there's caps on programs, especially public service has a 15% cap.
Okay.
So we always get way more requests than we can actually fund, unfortunately.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks.
Eileen?
Great. Well, hello. My name is Eileen Sheehan, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at Hope House. And she said enter. And we are asking funding for our court advocacy program. And our court advocacy program works specifically with law enforcement in responding when they respond to domestic violence calls. We make contact with victims from the police reports. We're present in municipal court as well as assisting victims in orders of protection court, all coming from the city of Lee Summit. We plan in next funding year that we will service 100 unduplicated folks that are coming from the city of Lee Summit. Officers who respond to calls use the lethality assessment program, and that is a tool that officers conduct at the scene of an intimate partner violence. They ask questions, and those people screening in high danger, they make contact with our hotline and try to connect those folks with services. Those victims are offered if they want to come into shelter, or maybe they just want to talk about safety planning, kind of the what next. We can do that as well at the time when they call. Looking at our numbers here in 2024, well, I guess 2024 was last year, we served 304 survivors that had the lethality assessment, and 65% of those that were screened in were high danger, which means they were likely to be killed if there wasn't some type of intervention in that situation. Looking at our numbers from Lee Summit in general, there were 218 that were served from Lee Summit, 748 interventions. And looking at the CDBG money that we did receive last year, 114 were served with these dollars and 205 interventions. Program success, those survivors who did surveys, as you see overall, we're very happy with being able to have that connection into the what next after something awful has happened to them in their lives. And program success, you can read the success stories. Domestic violence is really a very traumatic thing that goes on in our community, and not knowing the what next is really scary. And our partnership with law enforcement and working with the municipal court and order protection court kind of helps guide those survivors through the what next. We work in those systems, we know those systems, and we can give them the guidance that they need. It's got to be really scary, you know, to leave everything you know and then try to stay safe and bring your kids along. Do you have any questions?
So this is only for Lee Summit residents, so they have to have residency before they come to apply to come to Hope House to?
No. These dollars, we have a court advocate who specifically works with the Lee Summit Municipal Court and the Lee Summit Police Department, but we have court advocates who work with Independence, Blue Springs, Grandview, Raytown, so we have advocates who work in the other communities as well. So these dollars specifically support Lee Summit residents that we're working with.
That was my question.
Yes,
so
sorry.
These dollars only support the Lee Summit
Yes, ma'am.
residents? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Thank
Yes.
you very much. Thanks, Chair.
For that information. Do you guys collect demographic data on your people that you serve?
We do, if they self-report, yes.
Do you have demographic data for these?
I don't know. If it's not in this report, I don't have it off the top of my head. We have age and race and ethnicity in this report. Okay. How do I go back? What's the magic button for that?
Probably just backspace. Where are you trying to go there?
Is this what you're? Well, I was quickly clicking, so. Can I answer any questions off that? Thank you. Sorry, my technology is not up to.
We win.
Thanks for having us here. I'm Lou Ann Ross. I'm Vice President of Programs at Hillcrest Transitional Housing. We strive to serve families and individuals who are on the brink or already experiencing homelessness. We have 16 apartment units here in Lee Summit. at 5th and Mission. And we have full-time staff that live on site and 2 full-time case managers, and we are asking for the dollars to help relieve of some of that case manager salary. So last year, all through Hillcrest, you'll see on your slides that we served 968 households all throughout the Hillcrest Kingdom, as I call it, and over 1,500 individuals. And I have some specific numbers also to share with the Lee Summit site, because that's what we're here talking about today. Last year in 2024, at our Lee Summit location, we served 43 families, and that was a total of 109 individuals, 45 adults, and 64 children. And what is the most amazing thing about working in this community, and including my colleagues behind me and that we partner with, is this is such a incredibly giving, philanthropic, concerned community to do this type of work in. And we have such good partnerships with the leadership of the city and also with the school district. And so when there's a family in need, we have, as we would say, canaries in the landmine that will let us know that there's a family that's in need. And what's unique about our program as compared to some of the federal funded or specific directly HUD funded programs is that we will serve and are able to serve families and individuals that are by definition couch surfing or pillar to post, just finding a place to put their heads every evening, that may not be literally homeless and qualify for other assistance. And so our main mission is to really keep people from going off that cliff into kind of the federal funding pool that is reducing every day and can be really difficult to back out of. So we provide apartments rent and utility free for 90 days to adults and families, and we accept all those in whatever form or fashion they come to us in. They don't pay any utilities. We have a food pantry on site. Toiletries that all come from generous donors in our community. We also provide intensive case management, which is really focused on improving employment and working with an all needs and no wants budget. So we kind of giggle and say no Netflix, no Starbucks, no getting your nails done. But when you're homeless and you need to find permanent housing for your family, those are choices that are tough to make when the world is telling you that you need those things, or you need to keep up with whatever your social media is telling you. And so our staff spends a lot of time having those tough conversations about choices that need to be made, and so they won't be in that situation again, which is why this, this funding is important to us, because our case managers, I can attest, spend more than 40 hours a week in support, because Murphy's Law tells us if there's an urgency or an instance that comes up where a family that's with us needs support, it doesn't always happen from 8 to 5. And so we also work with the other partners in the community and have additional funds that will help pay for car repair, employment, educational opportunities, medical, dental expenses, getting connected to mainstream benefits if they haven't already is something that we really work on as well. I don't need to tell you what the effects of homelessness are on school performance, healthcare factors, the impact on our hospital systems, et cetera. And so we try very hard to, mitigate those things and coach the families that we work with on other opportunities. So the CDBG dollars, as I said, will help pay for the case manager's salary, making sure that we move those families directly from homelessness to self-sufficiency, and connect them to all the additional resources in the community. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Mike, you're up next.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike, and I'm the Director of Operations at Lee Summit Social Services. Hold on. Okay. At our agency, our mission is simple: to provide a lifeline for our low-income, elderly, disabled, and unhoused neighbors right here in Lee Summit, Greenwood, Lake Lotawana, and Lone Jack. Yeah. We offer essential services like food, utility assistance, personal hygiene, baby care items, help with prescriptions, and seasonal events for our clients' families, like our back-to-school program and Christmas program. Last year alone, thanks to the incredible generosity of our community, we were able to distribute approximately $1.7 million in services, helping nearly 2,900 unique individuals meet their emergency needs while also empowering them to set goals and build a path toward greater independence and dignity. Up, back. Okay. We are deeply grateful for the unwavering support of our community and fellow nonprofit agencies who consistently step up to help those most vulnerable, and we sincerely thank the CEDC members for their valuable time and attention today. Any questions?
Thank you for that presentation. Can you tell me what birth certificates are that you had on your list? I was just curious of the services that you offer.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Birth certificates that were on the list, birth certificates, that was on your list of services that you offered? I just was curious what that was.
Oh, you didn't hear all of them?
I did, I saw your list.
What
but-
it is probably when people need to obtain a birth certificate, you guys provide support to help them.
Prescription, yes, we have a medical, Jenna in our office does for medical, she contacts somebody.
Birth
and then-
certificates.
Birth certificates.
Yeah, we do those too.
So how does that work? I'm just curious.
We send out to whatever city or.
To help them obtain the birth
Yes.
certificate?
Right.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Christina is up to present for Home Preservation Program for Mary Kate.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the committee. Christina Lakey, and I'm the CEO of Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity. We are a Eastern Jackson County housing solution provider. Our focus is on permanent housing through homeownership as an avenue to build and maintain wealth. For the last few years, since 2020, we've been happy to have the partnership with City of Lee Summit, providing the home preservation program to your existing homeowners. And so we're excited to be recommended again for continued support. Our focus with our home preservation program is on finding those income qualified homeowners who typically are going to be seniors, not always, but that's really a strong focus for us because we're wanting to serve those with the greatest need for support in maintaining the affordability, the quality of life, and the safety of their home. We're very much focused on engaging in the community in that effort because we believe when we bring people together alongside the families we serve, that we give an opportunity for everyone to understand the value of neighborhood, being support for those in need, and just together creating a sense of belonging in the community. For the last few years, we have averaged, I think, around 12 to 15 homeownership improvement projects. We, in this current year, just completed 12 home improvements. Of the $145,000 we were granted, $144,767 was spent, and $114,000 of that was on direct cost to the home improvements that we do. We do actually have a portion that's set aside for our soft costs. I just want you to understand the level of investment that you're making in the physical improvement of the homes. The types of repairs that we typically cover, let's see, we are seeing the most critical needs really fall in the category of improvement of the electrical, plumbing, and sewer systems that support the home. And of course, those are very critical to home safety and health. We also do a lot of HVAC replacement, some radon mitigation, which if you're not aware, radon is significant. There are significant levels of elevated radon in all of Jackson County, and that's one of the requirements of the HUD program, that we address any hazards that exist to the homeowner as a result of the environment. We do a lot of foundation repair, hazardous tree removal where the tree is actually threatening the stability of the home or threatening to deny the homeowner access to homeowners insurance, weatherization to reduce the cost of utility burden. And then, of course, we want to be a good partner to the city where there are homeowners that might be having trouble with code compliance, that we can utilize these resources where the applications are eligible to help remedy any code violations that that homeowner is experiencing. Let's see, I don't know if I pointed out, no, these slides are a little different than the pictures that I have. This is a good example of one of the homeowner projects that we served. One of the things that we like to let the community be a part of is that volunteer aspect. When we can, we invite, whether it's neighbors, it's corporate team builds, it's faith communities, members in the community that want to come out and help us do the work we do. It helps keep our costs down, but again, it also builds that sense of community. And we always invite the homeowner to be a participant in that process. We utilize what's called our sweat equity model, where we give the families the dignity of a hand up and not a handout. And so they will earn a certain number of sweat equity hours towards the improvement of their home. And they can do that in a variety of ways. We want to make sure that we accommodate everybody's ability and their availability and their needs. And so you can see here a lot of the ways in which they contribute that sweat equity include volunteering alongside our construction crews in our Habitat Restores, which we're proud to have one in the Lee Summit community that provides a triple bottom line service to the community. We divert waste from the landfill that we're able to sell to meet the needs of community members that are working on improving or furnishing their homes. And of course, the net income off of that operation goes into the housing projects that we serve. So wonderful service that we can provide the community, but it's also serving our mission. And then one of the things that we love to do, and it really has been such a wonderful opportunity to promote the work that Habitat does in your community, is we ask the homeowners if they'll let us put a sign in their yard that just shares that they have been a partner and participated in the support with Habitat and the City of Lee Summit, so that we can really help get the word out. That's probably one of our biggest challenges with this program, is just making the homeowners in Lee Summit that would be eligible for the project aware that this service is available to them, and so those signs help with that. I also wanted to share that we are currently working with the Lee Summit staff from the Community Development Department and our own Truman Habitat staff to promote awareness of this program. We'll be having 3 sessions at the Lee Summit Mid-Continent Library, May 7th from 4 to 6, Saturday, June 7th from 1 to 3, and then Monday, June 7th from 5 to 7. And those are opportunities where people hopefully will come and get their questions answered about the program. Perhaps we'll receive some applications at that time. Again, just thankful to have the opportunity to partner with you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. So I was going to ask where you got your applicants, and so is that the opportunity that at the library that you do, that's where you get the applicants, or are there people that?
We take them ongoing, and we actually have a web page that we, through social media and other communication channels that we've promoted the availability of the program, can direct people to 365 days of the year. As long as we have funding eligibility, applications can be accessed online. These sessions at the library are just additional effort that we're making to get out into the community and promote the program. We are actively seeking applications at this point because we do have funding available with our current grant, and we are hoping to fulfill that successfully and on time. We did complete this last contract on time, and that was something else that I wanted to point out, is that we do these projects over a one-year contract, so fulfilling that contract on time is a really big deal for us. We're very proud of our team for that. So
is this total amount that you would be getting, is that just covering the cost of doing the work, or is that administrative costs as well?
it includes administrative cost as well. And so I don't have the breakdown for the current application with me. I think we're allowed 20% between, it's between 20 and 25 of the total award that goes to cover a percentage to administrative expense for the back office support that we give to the program. But then we also have a project manager that is the person who's doing the application intake, certification, the scope write-up, the contract oversight, and those are project-specific expenses that we can bill to the grant.
So 20% and 25%, or just?
I think it's between 20 and 25% total.
Total, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So just back to that example again, we had a $145,000 contract for this that we just completed in March. Of that, $114,000 and some change went to the projects, and then $30,000 of that went to soft cost.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Welcome. Oh, and I think I'm next. So while I have this opportunity, I just want to do a shout out to my associates who are competing, or I shouldn't say competing, applying in the social service category, with the category that has the cap. It's a very difficult category to seek funds in because of that cap. On the housing side, both the home repair program that I just presented to you and the application that I'd like to speak about now, we are one of the fortunate categories of eligible projects that are not subject to a cap. We're very excited to be able to bring our services to the community and help Lee Summit meet the goals of its consolidated plan that was just presented. One of the ways that we can do that, of course, is the home preservation program, where if we're averaging 12 to 15 projects a year, we're going to help you make pretty good strides towards that goal of completing 75 homeowner projects in the 5-year period of the grant. The second proposal that I have is something new to the community, and this is something we do in other parts of our service area. So I mentioned we serve Eastern Jackson County, and for the last 35 years, we've been building and improving homes as we've had opportunity to in existing neighborhoods. Just this last year, we acquired and rehabbed 4 properties through various means. Sometimes those properties are donated to us, and sometimes we acquire them at a discount from a partner owner. Sometimes we buy them on the market. It just depends on the availability of properties that are suitable for our homeownership program. And so what we're proposing to the city as far as a new project that could help you meet your goals for supporting affordable homeownership in Lee Summit is an opportunity to work with us and a new community impact loan fund that's been developed by the Truman Heartland Community Foundation, that it would give us an opportunity to buy properties, existing homes in some of your neighborhoods that are needing a little bit of love. We typically will see those properties kind of come up in the areas that are established, but sometimes the homes are underbuilt or in some way needing the kind of investment that sometimes the market isn't able to provide. But we're also able to bring our skilled general contractor services, our donors, our volunteer laborers, and a lot of in-kind contribution that we get from community members and contractors to help reduce the cost of those acquisition rehab projects, so that we're then able to sell the homes to a family who really is seeking that opportunity to enter into home ownership as a means of stabilizing their family, starting to build financial success, and ultimately our goal is to help them build wealth. This is just one example of a family that we supported this last year through a property, an opportunity to acquire property. It was a HUD reverse mortgage home that went back to HUD after the homeowner was deceased, and we had an opportunity to buy the home at below market value. We worked with the homeowner to go through our homebuyer financial coaching and education program, and then she was able to get finance through a mortgage company to buy a home of her own, and we were waiting for her with what effectively was a brand new home that was remodeled inside and out with all of the important elements of the structure and the mechanical systems, energy efficiency, environmental safety, a home that she could move in and not expect to have significant capital cost for some time. We worked with her to obtain down payment assistance through her lender's program, and we were also able to provide a soft second mortgage to her that allowed us to sell that home to her at a price that she could afford. One of the little known facts about Habitat for Humanity is we don't give our homes away. We are always selling the homes to the home buyer at the appraised value, and the way that we're able to do that is and make it affordable is that we're working with them when we finance the mortgage on a zero interest mortgage, which allows them to participate in their in building wealth and building their credit, but they're paying taxes, they're paying insurance, just like all of us if we're buying a home, but it's affordable to them because we offer the zero interest lending. In a third-party arrangement, which is what we're suggesting we can do in Lee Summit, we'll be working with the lender to borrow, which would be the Community First Impact Loan from Truman Heartland, and the CDBG program to bring those sources together to acquire and rehab the homes. And then we will sell the home to somebody who's gone through our Master of Homeowner Preparation program and is qualified for a third-party mortgage. And what that allows us to do is to take the sale of that home once it's complete, the transaction is complete, take the proceeds from that sale and combine it with some additional funds from the block grant award to do the next project. Our hope is that we would be able to do at least 2 projects. It's possible that we could get to 3 depending on the availability of property and the other donations and financial support we're able to bring to the project. So it is a new concept, and I'm sure there are going to be lots of questions, but we're excited to see if this is something that the community is interested in doing. I have here a map that shows what is an incredible program that the state of Missouri has been offering for some time. It's an incentive that we often take advantage of as a developer of housing units because this incentive is specifically for developing home ownership units, not necessarily affordable, but always home ownership. And because Lee Summit does have some tracts in its area, this is a census tract based program, and because you do have some tracts in your community that are eligible for this incentive, which typically is 25 to 35% of the cost of the rehab that we get back to the project, and we're able to reinvest that, the proceeds of the sale of that tax credit into the units that we're doing. It makes it strategic for us to look for properties in the areas of your community that have these eligible tracts. And so I just wanted to highlight that this is the area. The areas in green here and where that circle is in the center is where we are looking to focus our investment. It's not the only place that we would look for properties, but in particular, those green tracts are attractive for the opportunity to combine the CDBG funding, the tax credit funding, and then ultimately the loan funds that we would bring. And so that's kind of the area that we would be targeting, but again, we wouldn't be restricted to that area. Any questions? No? Okay. Great, thank you.
Now I'd like to present the funding allocation staff recommendation for the upcoming program year. For program year 2025-26, we have an estimated total of $342,628 in available funding. This is last year's allocation, and the city's awards have historically been around $350,000. In addition, there are remaining funds available from a prior year project that was canceled, and the amount of $173,000. This brings the total available funds for allocation to $515,628. CDBG program has certain funding caps with federal guidelines that we cannot alter. Administrative costs for the CDBG program in blue are capped at 20% of the total grant award. This means I cannot request more than $68,525.60 to cover program administration costs, which includes staff salaries and overhead. Public service projects in green are capped at 15%. So we cannot exceed $51,394.20 in requests in this category. The orange color is for construction-related projects, and there is no cap on this category. So anytime we have remaining funds from prior year projects that were canceled or not fully expended, they're usually applied toward this category. Moving back up to the public service category in green, all of these nonprofits are high-performing agencies. We've funded CDBG projects for them for several years, and I have no performance issues or capacity concerns with any of them. Due to that 15% cap limitation, my goal has usually been to make sure that we can at least fund the minimum that they're requesting before they are no longer interested in the CDBG program, which is that middle column. So I have Lee Summit Social Services and Hillcrest funded at their minimums, which are larger requests, and then Coldwater and Hope House are funded at their minimums, and I split the remaining amount amongst those two, which resulted in about another $4,000 each in addition to their minimum request. For the construction other category, or the orange category, Truman Habitat submitted applications for two projects. One, the home preservation program, which we funded the past few years, and an application for a new program to the city, not new to Habitat, the resale homeownership project. Since we have $173,000 to reallocate to the construction other category due to the cancellation of Lee Summit Housing Authority's project, we are able to fully fund both of Habitat's requests, and we're actually able to apply a little bit more than requested to the home preservation program, which Habitat was comfortable with. If the committee does not want to fund any of these programs, they do not have to. You can also fund certain programs more or less, but you do have to stay within those caps. Now I'm going to open it up to the CEDC for discussion. The goal is really to come to a consensus on the funding recommendation that we could then pass along to City Council for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is our opportunity to go through this and ask any clarifying questions, or I think we would primarily be in that green bucket looking at the funding, because in that 15% cap, that's 15% of, just to make sure I'm clear, of the 515,000 of the total dollars we have available, or just explain that cap again.
Yeah, so that 15% cap is on the annual allocation, which we are assuming it's going to be $342,628, which is our allocation for last year.
15% of that we have to use
15% of that.
in that green bucket.
That's correct.
Chair, if I may, the 15% cap for public services, that's in only if you choose to fund a public service. You could allocate all of it to construction. I know that's not what we're saying, but it's not a requirement that you have 15% there. It's you have up to 15% that you can spend on public services.
Same with the program administration. You don't have to fund the 20% program administration.
I recall in the planning administration, like that covers the salary for the
For staff.
vacancy that we have right now. Right, okay.
That's correct.
All right, I would open it up to my fellow committee members for questions or thoughts. Anybody?
Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
How come the Truman Heritage Habitat how come those two projects have no cap?
That's just HUD guidelines that
They
certain
say they don't have
categories-
to have a cap?
That's correct. Yep.
I like the acquisition rehab project very much. My question, however, is, and maybe this is in general, so how do we make sure that the money is spent according to what they say that they're going to be doing?
Sure, so we require quarterly reporting, and so they have to talk about the status of their program. It's also a reimbursable grant program, so anytime they want to get reimbursed for expenses, they have to submit all documentation for us to review. So we're able to check it and make sure that everything is in compliance before the city is paying them for expenses.
And on the resale homeownership project, that $175,000, is that to set this up to go forward with it?
I'll let Christina answer that question.
Probably should have asked you when you were up here.
So because this is a program that we do in other parts of Eastern Jackson County, there's not a lot of setup on our part. What we would basically be looking to do is, provided there's a commitment from the block grant and the loan approval from Truman Heartland, we would be borrowing from Truman Heartland to acquire the properties. We would be using the only as much of the block grant as we need, combined together with donated materials, labor, and services that we bring to the table, and any philanthropy that donations we're able to raise to finish the project. Upon sale, the proceeds of the sale would go back to pay off the loan first, and then whatever income is there, we would be reinvesting into the next project. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It
Okay.
answers my question. Thank you. I think that's all I have, Chair. Thanks.
So on the public services, so I'm just trying to understand how our process works. So we have 51,394 to spend between the four that requested. So what makes us not say, let's just divide that up into 4 equal parts and they all get the same amount?
That's a great question. So each applicant, or on our application forms, we say, what is the minimum amount of funding that you'd be willing to accept before you no longer want any? And so that middle column has the minimum requests. And so if I were to just divide it up between the 4, Lee Summit Social Services would likely be under their minimum. Hillcrest may also be under their minimum. And then they wouldn't want the funding anymore.
Okay, so I guess I understand that it requires work in order to, the submission for reimbursement, but I guess wouldn't you want any amount of funding regardless? I guess I'm not understanding.
So there's administrative components. So there's, report requirements. We do monitor. We go out to the agencies and monitor them. They have to submit for reimbursement on a quarterly basis. So it's really those administrative requirements that they're saying, this amount is what I would need for it to be worth my time.
Okay, that makes sense.
She kind of hit it right there at the end. It's almost like, is the juice worth the squeeze? There's minimums they have to make their budgets work.
Okay.
And so it's not uncommon for social service agencies to provide us with that, their bare bones minimum is.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I was just trying to understand the process, so thank you.
Councilmember Am I saying that correct? I'm sorry. I did want to back up to your compliance question. So each of the agencies we enter into a subrecipient contract with, which lays out all the steps and processes and compliance measures that they have to follow. And so that helps to ensure compliance. And then the monitoring component, actually going out to the agencies, being on site, looking through their documentation, more of a deep dive, also really helps with that compliance component as well.
Thank you for that explanation. That's great.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Fish, I think you were talking about, I'm sorry.
Kahneman, Amy Kahneman.
Okay, sorry. So I think you were talking about the methodology of the staffing to administer this program. I'm up in the planning and administration section. You had said there's one full-time FTE that you use to administer this program and half of an assistant director. Is that how, and that's how you're getting to the 68,000, because you can only require 50% of what you're using? Is that correct?
So what, and I had met with Ms. Nassif a week or two ago, and just to get an idea on how much it's going to cost the city in the upcoming fiscal year, and it was about $138,000, and that's a full-time grant specialist position, as well as about 25-30% maybe of the assistant director of grants and administration position. And so since we're capped here at that 20% on program administration, I cannot request more than 68,000. So that's covering about half of what it costs the city to run the program.
Okay, so it's not that you requested half, it's that that's what the cap indicates. But you're saying it actually cost 3 FTEs, 1.25 FTEs to administer this program a year.
That's correct.
It's like 3,000 hours. That seems high to me.
It's a,
For 6
so it's a,
applicants.
I think what it is, it's a full-time employee that the city employs to administer this.
Our grant specialist that we have it is a full-time job to administer the program with all the reporting and the subrecipient agreements and the environmental reviews that are due. It is quite the effort. And so there is a lot of extra work that goes well beyond a 40-hour week work. So the Assistant Director of Grants also helps with the monitoring, compliance, any additional work that needs to be done, the community engagement, and the ongoing, then the reporting as well, the annual action plan reporting, and then every 5 years we have our strategic plan, but the ongoing monitoring of that consolidated strategic plan too.
So the grants specialist is required to solely work on this program only.
Yes. They have about
Other
10%,
things.
maybe 15% time extra here and there, maybe to do some other items, but traditionally that has been their sole focus area.
So the HUD requirements, and one of my questions was quarterly reimbursement. Is that a requirement from HUD or is that a city standard?
That is everything that we do is HUD regulations and through HUD compliance.
So they require quarterly distribution of funds. So you couldn't just give them the full amount to manage and then the person is the specialist is managing them.
We do not provide payment up front. We require that they have to
Reimbursement.
complete, and it's all reimbursement program, yes.
Because you guys have to fill out reports to HUD
We have to fill out
showing
reports.
where the funds went and that they were actually used as appropriated.
Yes.
Is that correct?
There is a lot of reporting to prove compliance that has to be done.
Does the specialist do site visits?
They do
These
environmental reviews on all of the home repair program projects, and then they also do site visits periodically, and there's regular ongoing. We don't just sit behind the desk. We want to engage and have those relationships and
Yeah, that's what I
partnerships,
was
so they go
curious.
out as
Yeah, I
well
was just
as they
curious
can.
about that.
And the assistant director does a lot of that too, just again to help with that workload as well.
Well, I know there's a lot of red tape in the federal government that's currently being uncovered, so good luck with that. Thanks for your
Thank you.
Thanks for your answers.
To help, okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Chair, if I may add just a few things to that. Yeah, so the CDBG program is it's a well-established grant program through HUD, but it's also well known that there is a lot of regulations associated with it. Part of that reason is it is a pretty well-established entitlement program through there, and through the different requirements of the federal regulations, we not only have to input the information and things like that, we also have to have a secondary level of approval just internally associated with all of the drawdowns and things like that. So part of the way that we've looked at this grant for some times, and we've been an entitlement community since I believe 1993, is that it's a bit of I'll say a 75% match, or it's a 25% match type of grant. So we put in those funds, and then in return we have the ability to provide a larger number of funds than we would otherwise be able to. So we kind of look at it as more of a matching, our portion of the matching program.
Thank you for that explanation. I'm just curious. You guys had any indication from HUD as to, about federal funds being frozen every day? So I'm just curious if these funds have been frozen.
No, we have not heard anything other than it'll probably be beginning of May, if not late April, that we'll hear what our funding allocation will be for this upcoming year.
Those funds
And
are
traditionally,
secured.
sorry?
Those funds are secured.
Yeah, they are
the
secured.
upcoming
Traditionally,
school
we hear mid to end April, but we were told the funds were secured for this upcoming budget season, and it will be end of April or beginning of May that we'll know the definitive number that we're given.
So when you say the funding is secure,
Congress passed a budget resolution in March. And so now HUD has 60 days to come up with the formula allocations. So we're just waiting on HUD to find out what that amount is. But I was told by HUD today the money's there.
or people at HUD that you can talk to about this grant?
We have a rep from HUD, and I communicate pretty frequently with that person to make sure that we stay in compliance with everything and have good relationship.
On the program administration, are there any other organizations that person manages? I know, like, you had to jump in last year on the Lee Summit Housing Authority. Are there other things, or is it just the grant program that administrator also does things outside of this program? Is that just a special circumstance where you were helping us last year?
The assistant director, Amy was fabulous. The assistant director's position also does the department budget. They also do overview of our business license program, our customer service team, our front desk staff, scheduling construction inspections. So there's a whole host of other
I
responsibilities
knew it
too.
wasn't just for these programs there.
Yes.
Great, thank you. And then I had a kind of a follow-up to what Councilmember Hodges said. So minimum request versus the request. So in some way, shape, or form, obviously someone's saying this is too much work for us, and that's our minimum request, but it is kind of arbitrary, right? I mean, it's like, if I were to come in and make a request, wouldn't it be smarter for me to make a higher minimum request? Like, if, I don't want to say we're gaming the system or anything like that, so like trying to, again, like we have the allocated 2,500 minimum, 5,000, 21, 15, by raising your minimum request, it's helping you get more. It doesn't necessarily mean like that's more work for that group than the other group, right? Like, isn't it the same administrative duties? Whether you get 2,500 or you get 21,000, or?
I think that really depends on the program that's being run.
And how that money's being divvied out and the different requirements for it, so it might be more paperwork for one group than another?
Right, just depending on what their program entails.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. What's everybody's thoughts? This would be a good time, because we are going to make a recommendation based off this to council. Approval. Do we like it as is? love to just give more money, right? And then this just another, so how does our bucket go up or down, which is granted to us? Like, how do we get more funding and let's support more people? Or
So it's not up to us.
I know it's not up to us, but I just wonder what formula
Yeah.
HUD's using or
Sure.
whatever to come up with that number. Oh, boy.
So,
You got this.
so HUD runs Formula A and Formula B for each community and sees which one produces a higher amount. And so it's based on population, 25%, people in poverty, 50%, and overcrowded units, 25%. We've always been in this Formula A bucket. It's always given us more money. But it's usually around $350,000.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
And Chair, so since the funding recommendation is using last year's number, once the final allocation is made, then these numbers are essentially adjusted to match the funding allocation, and it's essentially based off of percentages.
So these are all percentages, and whatever that funding is, that will be how it's allocated. Now, do you need a motion from us? Vice Chair?
All right. I recommend to full council approval, 2025-6711, public hearing, community development block grant, 2025 to 2029, consolidated plan, and 2025 to 2026 annual action plan.
Second.
Call on that, please.
Chair Lovell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hodges, Councilmember Rader.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you for all your work for us. It's sad
Thank
you
you.
left us.
Happy to be here.
All right, that'll take us to roundtable. Does anybody have any items they would like to discuss?
We have a bit of staff roundtable.
Oh, let's do it.
Ready. So just wanted to give a heads up that there's been a few items that have been assigned to CEDC over the last month, and I am counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate items to add to our upcoming agendas right now, and those are all items that are outside of the council goals, and housing, the beautification, the solid waste, and the stormwater all have implications for CEDC as well as the World Cup also has a lot of implications for this committee in particular as well. So just wanted to give you a heads up that we're putting together more detailed work plans, kind of like we did for the beginning half of this year, as we review the work that's been done over the previous year, where that's been and where we're going. With that, we do have a couple of council conversations coming up. April 15th, we're going to have the discussion over beautification. As well as on April 22nd. Now, and then we do have housing scheduled for a city council work session. A lot of good work going on. Just wanted to give you all an update.
We have 2 more meetings before it reshuffles, because that's the other thing. I know we talked about that last night, and you and I are meeting Friday to kind of go through what we've got laid out ahead of us, maybe prioritize some things, whatever we need to do, and then, so we've got.
I believe the first meeting in June is when.
Yeah, so.
Required to be reassigned.
1 together, and then. Okay, great. Anything else? Anybody else? All right, I will adjourn this meeting at 5:14.